Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm Tammy Diedrich, the Managing Editor of IBM Systems Magazine, and I'm the moderator for this event. Today's webinar is sponsored by GT Software and is titled Enhance Customer Engagement with Mainframe Web and Mobile Access. Our featured speakers today are Don Spurkey and Dusty Rivers. Don Spurkey is the Senior Solutions Architect at GT Software. The 25-year veteran in the enterprise modernization space has collaborated with an impressive list of global Fortune companies to intelligently integrate legacy mainframe assets to scale for new business application initiatives. Don provides practical, sound advice and strategic vision for organizations that seek to expand the role of the mainframe within the enterprise to quickly and cost-effectively integrate into new technologies like mobile and web applications, as well as cloud-based solutions. Dusty Rivers is the principal technical architect of GT Software. Dusty has an extensive 36-year background in global mainframe systems integration and has been recognized as an IBM champion for 4 years in a row for his leadership and contributions to the information management community. His expertise focuses on enabling global organizations to extend the use of mainframe systems into the world of web services, clouds, and all distributed systems. Today, Don and Dusty will explain how real companies across the world have used web and mobile to provide bidirectional, real-time access to the mainframe to benefit both customers and employees. Following the presentation, we'll have a brief Q&A period, so please feel free to enter your questions in the question panel on your screen anytime during the presentation. Now, without further ado, thanks again for joining us today. And Don, I'll turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you very much, Tammy. On behalf of myself and Dusty Rivers, we'd like to welcome everyone today. It's great that so many people from around the world have joined us for this call. We know that your time is precious, and we appreciate your time, and we look forward to sharing this presentation with you. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a little bit about a background about who we are at GT Software. We have over 30 years of experience in helping businesses adapt and align their technology by unifying their data and their applications. Regardless of the platform, programming language, types of data, or device, we have a solution to help you meet your needs. We've helped over 2,500 companies succeed worldwide in an assortment of industries. And now that you know a little bit more about GT Software, I'd like to quickly introduce our agenda for today. We're very excited to share with you the success stories of 5 of our premier clients. By sharing their pain points and how we help them find solutions to fix their problems and achieve success, we hope you can get some answers that may help you to address your individual needs. But before we get started and share their stories, we want to give you some background and some information in regards to customer engagement and the importance of mobile and web enablement. Over the past 5 years, mobility has had probably more impact on the way we interface with businesses than any other influence. Why that might be? Empowered consumers are turning the table on businesses and demanding easy access to information and applications. And in turn, companies are seeking ways to do more with less. The solution is more self-service applications to reduce costs. Take a look at your own daily interactions. How many times have you, as a consumer, needed to interact with a company? And of these interactions, how many times was your first go-to method of communications to pick up the phone and call them? Well, I know that most of my daily interactions no longer include one-to-one conversations. In fact, it's much more efficient if I just do it myself. Now from my phone, I can check in for a flight, I can get my boarding pass, pay for baggage if needed, all paperless, and all without any type of human intervention. Just spend some time watching TV, and you'll see it's peppered with ads from insurance companies, banks, and other organizations offering mobile services. So let's take a look at some of the mobility trends. I wanted to share with you some startling facts about the overwhelming growth of mobile enablement and the empowerment of employees and customers. Did you know that according to a study by Nokia, that most mobile users cannot leave their phone alone for more than 6 minutes? Also, most of these mobile users check their smartphones upwards of 150 times per day. Now, if that's not staggering enough, by 2015, it's predicted that more people will access the web with a mobile device than with a computer. The bring-your-own-device market is also thriving, and it's predicted to be at 108 million units by the end of 2016. Various industries have already begun to embrace mobile. 64% of physicians use tablets. You know, last week I took my dog to the vet, and I got to see a picture of my dog's x-ray on the veterinarian's tablet. And not only did I get to see the current x-ray, but the ones he took a year ago so we can compare what was going on. And of course, we can't forget the customers. Today, 54% of smartphone users do mobile banking. 72% of consumers also have a more positive view of a company if they can provide a mobile customer service application. And now that we've looked at these key trends, what does this mean for you and for your business? So what can you do to provide a compelling and engaging mobile experience? On the front end, all the consumer sees is an easy-to-use experience. But as we all know, things aren't so easy on the back end. Almost all of the big companies today are still running mainframe applications, and it's not always easy to mix the two. And what I mean is easy access and the mainframe. So how can we make the process of enhancing customer experience easier, even with hard-to-access mainframe applications? Well, we can do this in more ways than we have time to talk about today. But for now, we're going to condense a few interesting stories into about 25 minutes. It's our goal to quickly give you some good ideas to consider, and then we'll let you get back to your day. We're going to look at how some of the world's leading brands are providing their customers with modern, self-service user experiences that offers easy mobile access, yet relies on tried and true mainframe engines and logic. We'll also see how employees are empowered by mobility and have found success on the job. So let's begin. I'm going to turn over the presentation now to Dusty Rivers, GT Software's Principal Technical Architect, and he'll share with us our first customer story.
Thank you, Don. Let's first travel to Europe, to Stuttgart, Germany. This company is a German financial brokerage firm. They are the 5th largest bank in Germany. In addition to providing commercial banking and trading under their own brand, they deliver bank processing and trading services for smaller banks in Germany. Now let's take a look at the problem they were trying to solve. The organization was faced with business opportunities that demanded that they update and modernize their existing brokerage systems. Their solutions would have to serve the bank employees, private label banks, and the customers from an easy-to-use web interface instead of telephone-based agent calls. They had also decided that a rewrite was not feasible and that the business logic had to remain on their existing mainframe systems. Their IMS-based green screens were inadequate in supporting their business initiatives and providing assistance to private label banks' financial and trading systems. They also had to use banking interface standards as mandated by their industry in Germany. They were mandated to have this system operational in less than 8 months. Their current system is an IBM IMS DC system written in COBOL comprised of over 1,000 programs. They also had to interoperate with other departments and with existing layers of vendor and partner software. And what they built had to promote reuse of the existing new services. The company also wanted a solution that would be easy to use, and they did not want their staff to have to undergo massive training efforts. They selected GT Software's Ivory Service Architect to expose and orchestrate their IMS COBOL applications to the new systems. The organization achieved great results when addressing these needs and challenges. They did meet their aggressive timeline, and the new developers learned the tool quickly, and they learned it easily without formal training. They called it learning by doing. In fact, the COBOL developers were pleased to have a tool that helped them to be more in demand as they were able to work with newer programming paradigms to create new business services. Also, the internal Java developers were also able to rapidly use and propagate the new interfaces throughout their systems without having to know the mainframe application information. They were able to achieve an 80% reuse of these services for their next brokerage project, thus saving time and money. Now back to Don, can you tell us how this was accomplished?
This organization, as Dusty mentioned, built a web portal that was used by three very different classes of users: employees, customers, and their business partners. Using Ivory Service Architect from GT Software, they were able to build web services to expose IMS applications to the new development initiatives. They started the process with the Ivory Service Architect Studio, where the web services were modeled using a wizard-driven IDE and the copybooks for the IMS transactions. Something very important to note for all of the use cases that we're going to talk about today is that Ivory Service Architect does not require any changes to your existing applications. It's completely non-intrusive. The use of XML schemas, a feature of the Ivory Studio, to maintain consistency across the services was crucial to the success of this project. The completed services had the right level of granularity, getting just the data that was required, which allowed them to be reused for other applications. The services were also deployed to the Ivory server running in the ZOS address space. The address space used IMS Connect to communicate with the IMS control region. This project was so successful, a case study was published jointly between IBM and GT Software. Not only did we integrate with IMS, they were also able to integrate the Ivory services with WAS, the WebSphere application server. Now let's turn our attention to a leading U.S. insurance carrier.
Thanks, Don. Let's take a step back from finance and see how our friends in the insurance industry have used mobility to their advantage. They're headquartered in the southeastern USA. This insurance company is dedicated to providing the best customer service that they can. They are also technology-driven and are interested in giving their agents every technological advantage that they can to ensure their productivity and success. So what was their challenge? The insurance company was looking at providing new tools for their field agents to issue what they called real-time insurance quotes while visiting customers on site. As the agents went to agricultural sites and homes, they would gather the needed information from the clients and then give them a temporary quote of coverage based on the information located on their device at that time. Then they would go back to their office and plug in the information to quote the real policy, and they usually discovered that they had not given a correct quote to the customer, often leading to that embarrassing phone call back to the prospect explaining the difference in cost. They needed the agent to go to the customer's site, inventory the items to be covered, including home and auto, and then when the prospect was satisfied with the inventory, to issue a quote from the mobile device or an iPad. This would require the system to communicate via a mobile device from where they were to the home office. They had to be able to access all of the policy systems, including current accounts, all of the available quotes and policies, calculate discounts if they were an existing customer, and report back in real time back to the mobile device with a full policy quote, even maybe suggesting other items if they fit a market profile that was offered that day. Upon customer approval, they could immediately issue the policy on the spot with a signature pop-up box, and they could even email a temporary policy back to the client. With mobile enablement, they were able to rebuild and repurpose the existing services and complete the existing system rapidly. They can also reuse the services with other offerings that were not initially covered in the mobile policy system. Because the policy quoting systems can be accessed remotely, it is possible to produce accurate final quotes in the field. Customers can go ahead and accept the quotes on site, which is a benefit to customer satisfaction and productivity. Access to the policy quoting system is possible on laptops or on other devices such as mobile phones and tablets. In addition, updating the customer policies and profiles is fast and easy. Besides enabling easy access to their mainframe, they leverage their ability to quickly create new web services in other key ways. They also, during the development, were able to free up 4 developers who were trying to write their initial system and repurpose them to other applications. Now new web services and applications were built to make the job duties of managers easy by streamlining daily internal business processes. These new web services include an application that allows their managers to make self-service requests, approve changes to an agent's commission, and even assist in tracking sales to determine the recipients for sales incentives and rewards. So how was this done, Don?
Well, having the ability to take the mainframe to the client drove this customer to build their tablet, laptop-based applications. Well, maybe they didn't take the whole mainframe, but they did put that critical business logic out into the field. Using Ivory Service Architect, they were able to build web services to expose CICS COM area applications to the insurance quoting system. Within the Ivory Studio wizard, the developer sees the copybook and simply checks off which fields are used for input and which fields are used for output. This means you don't need to deal with the entire copybook, just the fields needed to run the applications, keeping everything really nice and really tidy. The Studio also allows other web services to be called, so the ability to interface with a rating engine on a distributed system was just a few more mouse clicks away. The services were deployed to the Ivory server in the ZOS address space, and the address space then used EXCI to communicate with the CICS region where the applications were running. So let's turn our attention now to a leading U.S. bank.
Thanks, Don. Next, let's talk about the success that a regional U.S. bank experienced with creating a mobile banking application for its customers. This next organization is located in Atlanta, Georgia, and currently they have 1,500 retail branches and 2,200 ATMs nationwide. Like most banks and other industries have experienced, it was their customer base that demanded a mobile app, and they had to provide it quickly to satisfy their customers and also to beat their competition to the punch. This bank had a 6-month timeline to provide a compelling and engaging mobile app to serve customers. They had investigated the design and completion of the system using conventional techniques like rewriting or writing new code, and realized that to meet their very aggressive delivery time, they would need a new solution. They also realized that they would have to develop the mobile interface first, and that all of their back-end banking systems were mainframe-based, and they were in the CICS COBOL programs and green screen applications. Their legacy applications were not initially designed for integration, and rewriting the business logic was not acceptable. They also had to use the finance standards for banking interchange, called IFX, in their solutions and interface with a third-party security product and eventually other banks. All of the solutions would have to be reused by other applications soon to be developed in some of their other banking systems. Although running under a tight deadline, the bank did successfully meet their 6-month goal. They delivered their application in record time and managed to save hundreds of thousands of dollars in development and implementation time. Their own internal developers were rapidly able to adopt and learn the concepts and produce the needed services quickly. They also used 80% of the services developed for mobile banking for the bank's next stock brokerage project. These new web services added value to legacy applications and is the new internal standard. So Don, back to you. How did the bank go about quickly building this mobile app?
So Dusty, we've seen up to this point, IMS and CICS COM area, but now we're going to go ahead and add BMS transactions to the overall Ivory story. As you mentioned, this bank had three critical factors to consider when they began building their mobile banking solution. First, BMS applications containing the account information. These things were designed for the functions of a teller, not a mobile app. Time to market, as you said, was critical, and as you can imagine, number three was security. Well, let's start with time to market. They were already kind of behind the competition and needed to get into the game quickly. They also had no luck with another vendor that they had tried, and they needed to create web services from applications designed for someone looking at the screen, and that functionality did not match up to the specifications for the mobile app. And finally, nothing is more important to a bank than the security of customers' financial data. Using a mobile development platform, they were able to build an interface to authenticate the customer. Ivory Web Services were then used to integrate the GUI front end to the back-end mainframe logic. The Ivory Service Architect Studio was able to create sophisticated web services that would move screen to screen using looping and PF8 to page forward through the transactions to get the critical data that was required for the mobile front end. Behind the scenes, the Ivory server uses the Link 3270 bridge facility to process the requests for data from the screens. Using the orchestration capabilities of Ivory, they were able to pull balances from multiple transactions to provide a single view of the accounts to the customer. Now other functions like balance transfer were also just a web service away. High availability was achieved by running multiple parallel systems with a load balancer to distribute the workload. The zip processor was also employed to offload processing from the general purpose processor, thus providing a secure, highly available, and sophisticated app that was out the door on time and under budget. So how about we shift it into high gear, Dusty, and talk a little bit about some sports cars?
Thanks, Don. I think we can all agree that every customer would love to custom design, build, and buy their dream sports car themselves. Our next story is about one of the world's best-known brands in luxury performance sports cars. Headquartered in Stuttgart, Germany, they abide by a corporate goal to actively seek and stretch boundaries for continual improvement. However, this guiding principle doesn't stop with their manufacturing. In fact, their race-inspired philosophy, maximum output from minimum input, transcends into their internal operations as well. Their team was faced with the task of making the design, customization, and eventually the purchase of their luxury vehicles available on a worldwide web-based system. All of their options for engines, transmissions, body styles, interiors, and even wheels had to be real-time and had to be immediately available. The goal was for the interested buyer to be able to go to a web page, select a model, and then real-time build the car of their dreams. The use of a graphical 360-degree configurable view of the car was a requirement, and specifications had to be customized by region and country requirements. When the system was being designed, it was discovered that all engineering data, parts and specifications, including parts assembly, was hosted on their mainframe system. The company also had an incumbent vendor product that was to be used to assemble the website and drive the graphics and CAD-CAM-like version of the car assembly, which was the 360-degree design viewer. They also had adopted internal development standards that had to be supported, things like SOAP, REST, BPEL, and BPMN tooling. It was also important for them to integrate with some of their existing Oracle tools. The other requirement was that they had to use real-time data live from the existing mainframe systems and not use a copy or downloaded version of the engineering data for the vehicles. The company also wanted these new services to be reusable by the engineering team to get the most out of their investment. They also had a very aggressive timeline of implementation. So was this company able to make luxury car dreams come true? The answer is yes. The new services that they created added additional value to their existing system. In addition, they were able to reuse up to 80% of these services in the design of their next new car, since the designers and engineers had all of the services already written to configure the vehicles. They just had to load the new car specifications into their design tools and reuse the interfaces developed for the first project. With Ivory Service Architect, web services are developed, published, and put to use in less than 1 day. Mainframe developers also learned service-oriented architecture concepts, with web services becoming the new internal standards. Now customers can visit the car manufacturer's website and build the car of their dreams. As an additional project, they wanted to provide the ability for their sales force in the dealerships to be able to drive some of their processes using a mobile device like a tablet or an iPad. They simply wrote the application for the device and included these services in that application with no changes to the services. In the dealerships, they can show inventory, show options, track vehicles at other dealerships that may not be at their specific locations, or they can actually sit with the customer and configure the vehicles on the iPad in front of the customer using the initial systems that were developed. Don, can you explain now how this was accomplished?
I sure can, Dusty. Having a single view of the products and options that you offer to your customers ensures that everyone is on the same page. This customer built this web portal for designing and ordering a sports car that's used by the customer in their living room and the salesperson in the showroom. As Dusty mentioned, the challenge in keeping two systems in sync was causing customer satisfaction issues, and that's not good for any business. I think time to market, as you've heard, was the driving factor in getting this project up and running and the success of the project. Now, Dusty was very involved with this account from the start. In fact, the web services that he was helping to create happened so quickly, they decided early on to send him back to the States and do it themselves because Dusty was so far ahead of the web developers. The web developers that were built from the mainframe-based engineering systems were BMS and COM area-based and used the same techniques that we described in earlier examples, and that's bringing in the BMS source and bringing in the copybooks as the foundation for building these services. This account also used the callable services, sometimes called outbound services feature of Ivory Service Architect. And what that means is having mainframe applications make web services calls to distributed systems. This allowed them to offer financing options in the same portal that the customers used when they designed their vehicles. These callable services are created automatically by the Ivory Studio, and the interface is industry standard COBOL. These outbound callable services can be called from either online or batch applications. These web services, as Dusty mentioned, were so successful and so reusable, they even used them to design and launch a new model several years ago. So we're going to downshift, slow it down just a little bit, and talk about our last case study.
Thanks, Don. On our last study, it takes us all the way down to Johannesburg, South Africa. This banking company strives to be the go-to bank and the first choice for their clients when looking for financial answers and solutions. They also hold the distinction of being the coolest banking brand in South Africa 6 years in a row. So what's their story? As one of South Africa's largest financial services organizations, They wanted to give their customers a single solution experience across all of their banking channels. This included their credit, internal banking applications, and even their ATM network processing. They had a very robust core business system built upon IBM's IMS and MQ mainframe applications. Their custom-written, in-house developed gateway solution was showing it was unable to deliver a single solution across all of their banking channels. They had also been mandated due to the complexity and built-in security concerns that they had to continue to use their IMS mainframe-based applications and share the process and data across 30 of their business channels. They also had very unique security requirements. They not only had to expose business services across the diverse business channels, but also had to consume services from other channels in a consistent manner. In addition, they also had been tasked with improving developer productivity across all of the business units. Upon working with GT Software, they decided to create additional web services to make this single solution available for all their customers. So what happened? What results did this financial organization achieve? We were pleased to note that the company actually achieved a return on their investment in 12 months. Currently, they have over 600 services in production built over the last 18-month period. They have over 5 million mainframe services per day running in production. Now, if you do the math, the services don't necessarily relate to 5 million transactions. They may actually run more than that because each service can run multiple IMS transactions. Legacy applications are now presentation agnostic and can be offered throughout any channel in an industry standard mechanism. They have also experienced a high level of service reuse with many customers per service. So Don will now walk you through how this was done.
You know, Dusty, sharing information and how we use information across all the banking channels without reinventing the wheel was definitely the driving force for this customer. Repurposing and reusing web services significantly increased their ROI. Now, by now, you may be saying to yourself, Don, haven't I seen this picture already? And the answer is both yes and no. What you don't see here is one more feature in the how did they do this. I've told you about the wizard-driven IDE for building web services, but what if you already have a WSDL? Well, IBM or Ivory has got you covered there as well. One of the keys to rapid development of services is to take existing WSDLs and do top-down development. This helps to maintain standards for data elements, formats, and operations. This also ties in nicely with the use of XML schemas, especially when interacting with other financial institutions. And finally, something I think is worth noting again is the volume of services and transactions that this institution is running. As Dusty mentioned, in just a little over 18 months, they put 600 web services into production, and to date are running more than 5 million Ivory web services per day. Just to reiterate, that's over 5 million plus per day. Now, these services were deployed to the Ivory server running in ZOS, and just like our other IMS customers, they're using IMS to connect, to communicate with their IMS control region. Now, that was our last case study. So let's summarize, and then we can go ahead and take some of your questions. The three different industries that were examined today, finance, insurance, and manufacturing, all have found ways to leverage their existing technology and applications on their mainframe. With mobile, these companies have made it possible for their customers to have the mobile applications and convenient customer service that their customers have demanded. Not only were answers and information provided to their customers, but as we saw with our luxury sports car manufacturer, mobility allowed visitors to access their website and dream by designing their perfect car. And let's not forget about the workforce. As we saw with our European brokerage firm and our insurance company, mobility allowed employees to find success while they were at work. Productivity and customer satisfaction increased by these new changes to their daily work tasks. And best of all, each of these organizations saved time, money, and in many cases have continued to make use of these various solutions to continue to grow their business and satisfy their customers and their employees. Well, we'd like to thank everyone today for their time, and I hope that you found the information both timely and useful. At this time, I'm going to turn the presentation back over to Tammy to see if we've got any questions for today.
And yes, we do. Thank you so much. So we'll take just a few minutes to answer some questions now. Again, if you have a question, you can use the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen to send it in. Okay, first question. In the presentation, you mentioned IMS and KICS. Do you also support IDMS, DC?
Dusty, you want to go ahead and grab that?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yes, we do. We support, we mentioned the case studies of IMS and CICS. We do also support IDMS, DC, and other online TP systems, and we'd be happy to talk about their uses also.
Great. In the complex services, do you have to write supporting code to accomplish the orchestration?
I'll go ahead and take that one, Dusty. Actually, you do not. There's no coding required either at the web service creation or when you want to take advantage of the orchestration. When you take a look at our diagramming tool, which you can see pictures of on www.gtsoftware.com, it's just a matter of stringing these various transactions and processes together. You can include decision logic in there and give yourself places that you can jump out in case you run into some situation that is either an error or a scenario where you have some input data that's not expected.
Okay. Do I need a specific version of CICS or IMS to use Ivory?
I can take that one. The answer is no. We do not require a specific version of CICS, so we have customers all over the world that are using older versions of CICS and also older versions of IMS and also the newer versions, so we really do not depend on the underlying version. What we do in Ivory is supported in Ivory. So if you're on an old version of CICS or IMS, there's no worries.
So you mentioned the support of SOAP in the case studies, but I'm not sure that I heard RESTful. Do you also support RESTful messages?
Yes, we do. In addition to SOAP, we do support REST. We support JSON, and we also have support for JCA. All those protocols are available within Ivory Service Architect.
All right, great. Is the tool you use to build web services the same for IMS and for CICS?
Yes. So the Ivory Service Architect tool, the Studio, contains all of the information you need. So you have one tool, and it does IMS, it does CICS, it does IDMS, and it also can include data. So you have one tool for pretty much everything that's on your mainframe system.
Great. Another question here. What is the performance challenges in terms of coding / translating and also the existing performance of the applications?
I guess I'll take a poke at that one, Dusty. One of the things that we strive for is to provide two different things. First of all, we provide a very high-performance engine for doing the processing of the web services. And this includes things like running in Z-Linux and taking advantage of the specialty engines that are provided by IBM. You'll also, if you think back to one of the things that I talked about, was the ability to control the size of the messages that are being passed by only sending data that's required for the application to run, and then receiving back information that is required to satisfy the requirements of the requesting client. So by combining all that together, we can put together a very, very high performance environment. And I think as as both our U.S. bank and our South African bank can attest, the volume of transactions that they run has not made a significant impact on their mainframe resources.
And if I can add something to that, Don, is one of the things that's challenging is when you have a mainframe talking to a distributed system or a distributed system talking to a mainframe, one of the things that Ivory allows us to do is take that web server specification that may have been designed with Java in mind or distributed data types in mind. Part of importing that WSDL is we can actually convert those to what the COBOL is expecting. So the hard part is actually taking web services and making it callable by the mainframe. And then the reverse is taking those mainframe data types. And if you think about it, if you're COBOL, there's things like occurs depending on and redefines and comp3 and binary that don't exist in the distributed world. So we make that all seamless when we map the interfaces.
Great. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your expertise with us today. Just a quick note that we will be sending out a link early next week to a recording of today's presentation to everyone on the call, as well as to anyone who registered for the event but for whatever reason couldn't make it. So that concludes our webinar. I want to thank everyone for attending, and have a great day.